Hi, this is Chris with Leacris Computers. The title of today's video is What Was Wrong with My Computer? When people bring their computers to us to be cleaned up, one of the first things they ask when they come back to pick it up is, what was wrong with my computer? And they are invariably disappointed when most of the time I really can't tell them exactly what was wrong with it. I wanted to share with you today why this is the answer I most commonly give and what was the process that has led me to this point. Leacris Computers came into being 5 years ago this month at the now defunct Raleigh Road Flea Market in Henderson, North Carolina. At first, we mostly refurbished and sold used laptops and desktops, but inevitably, as the word of our presence spread, people began asking if we could fix their computers. I basically said to myself, how hard could it be? And so we said we could. Well, I found out pretty quickly that it was a lot more complex of an issue than I first realized. And as a result of that, I learned a lot of things really fast. Setting aside the technical aspects of computer repair for a moment, it became apparent to me that in terms of our relationship with our customers, the most important thing to them was my assurance that when I handed their machine back to them, that it was fixed. So, rather early on, after having worked on the first few dozen machines, I decided that rather than try to be precise and surgical in the way I worked on computers, that I would develop a comprehensive, systematic approach to the way I repaired computers. I decided to devise a system with a procedure which when implemented would result in the best, most consistent results. That is to say, that the vast majority of the machines I worked on would be in the best possible operating condition when that procedure was finished. At first, this procedure was rather simple. It had about 3 steps. And so back in those days, and I don't want to imply that we were giving people back their machines without really being fixed. What we would do is we would run our 3 steps, and then if the machine still wasn't working properly, I would simply call them up and say, well, we just need to reload Windows onto your machine. And so we did a lot more reloads in those days than we do now. We do very few these days unless there's a hardware issue. Because people want to preserve their data. They have programs on their machine that they may not have reinstallation disks for. All kinds of issues come up when you want to reload a machine. Even though reloading a machine is the simplest from my point of view, sometimes customer really just can't have that. Like I said, we had a 3-step procedure. Now this procedure has gotten longer, much longer, in the intervening years. As I've become aware of new problems that keep a machine from running properly, I have added new steps to my procedure. Now here is a list of the most common things I see wrong with computers. I don't think I've added anything to it now in about 6 months, so I think we're kind of at the end of the road. Not that there aren't other problems out there, but in terms of things that are really common, this is a pretty comprehensive list. So you can have a virus, you can have adware, you can have spyware, you have your page file is too small, your page file is heavily fragmented, file system errors caused by turning off your computer using the power button, missing or corrupted Windows system files. We see this a lot when the antivirus has done its job and cleaned up a viral infection. It does not straighten out the Windows system files. And so the virus is gone, but the damage that it did is still there. And so you still have to go in and fix that aspect of it. And unfortunately, Windows does not have an automated way to do that. You would think that Microsoft could have come up with some kind of utility to use in that situation, but they really don't have an effective one. Disk is heavily fragmented. Bad sectors on the disk. Of course, that's more of a hardware problem, not a software problem. Flaky RAM. Your RAM chips are not working at 100%. Not enough RAM. Of course, you say, Chris, how can that happen? What do you mean not enough RAM? I bought the computer, had a certain amount of RAM. I still have the computer, it still has a certain amount of RAM. How come it's not running the way it should? Well, Windows updates are a big reason for that. I know that when Windows 7 first came out, you could run it on, well, you could run it on a gig of RAM and it wasn't awful. You could run it on 2 and it would run great. And now, what I've seen is you really need 4 nowadays. If I see a system with 2 gigs of RAM on it, I'll immediately suggest an upgrade. It's just it's what they call mission creep. Add a new feature, takes more RAM. It always does. They never come out with anything that makes the computer more efficient. That is, Microsoft doesn't. Incorrect hard disk drive controller settings. The CPU might be overheating. That is a big issue in laptops. Flaky device drivers, especially video drivers. Too many add-ons in your web browser. Incorrect web browser settings. Too many programs loaded at computer startup. I see that a lot. Running more than one antivirus program at a time, you are just asking for trouble if you do that. Turning off your computer with the power button while the Windows updates are installing. That is a big no-no. That will mess up your system faster than just about anything. And then the last one is ghost in the machine, which just means I don't know. We don't run into that very often anymore. I used to have a lot of ghosts. I used to run into ghosts in the machine a lot. But as I've learned more over the years, that has become a much smaller problem. And when we do run into that, yeah, it's time to reload the Windows operating system. So I am now up to 10 steps in my procedure, and I run them on every machine that is brought into our shop for a cleanup. Doing it this way may lack a certain elegance. It does. It kind of, I wish I was smart enough to just look at a machine and just say, hey, I know exactly what it is. I'll just go in and be like a surgeon and fix that problem. But that doesn't work very well in real life. And the fact of the matter is that most computers, well, all but a very, very small percentage of computers that are brought to us have multiple problems. They'll have, off of that list, most will have at least 3 or 4 problems. So I've decided to take, it's kind of like beating it with a club, isn't it? Just do the same thing, every computer, every time. That's just the way it is. I can't, there's too many, in other words, there are just too many variables to computer cleanup to just say, I'm just going to try to figure out exactly what's wrong. It's so much easier and so much more effective, such a more effective use of my time to just start at point number 1 on the procedure and run down through point 10. And about over 95% of the time, that results in a computer that works just fine, as it should work. That's what I always tell people, how's it running? Well, it works as it should. I mean, I can look at the hardware on your computer and tell you how fast it should boot up, how well it should run things. It's, like I tell people, after you've done a couple thousand of these things, you start to get a feel for things. And so after this experience, this is real world experience, I figured out that this procedure is the way to go. It results in good results, and it has the added benefit of allowing us to offer our service at a flat rate. So that's the thing. I mean, if you want me to be a surgeon, I can be a surgeon. I can charge you by the hour. Or we can just do the procedure, and I can charge you a flat rate because I know about how long it takes to run through these 10 steps. And I've decided that what we're charging for it is fair to me, and I think it's fair to the customer. So I think if you get, a good result for a fair price, I think that's the way. Yeah, that's the way things should be, and that's the way we want to do it. We want our customers to be happy, of course, and we want them to be satisfied with our service. So, by the way, our flat rate computer cleanup service is $50, and the turnaround time is generally less than 24 hours, unless we find some kind of hardware issue. So, you can stop by the shop any day during the week from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Those are our operating hours. If you have any questions, you can give us a call at 919-518-6649. I hope you found this video to be useful. I hope it's been a good explanation of why we do the things we do. I understand that customers do get I can see it. They get a little bit disappointed when I say, I don't know exactly what's wrong. But really, you can just take a look at that list above and take your pick, because it's one or two or three or four and sometimes six or seven of those things from that list we went through earlier. So anyway, we hope to see you soon, and we hope you have a great day.